Welcome to the Ignorance is Strength podcast. I'm your host, Fabian motherfucking Ojeda, and I don't know shit, but that's okay. All right, let's get this shit started. Thank you, everybody, for listening to the Ignorance is Strength podcast. Hope you all enjoyed episode number 107 with Jesse Guajardo, the reptile dad. Definitely cool to see him, out there doing some nonprofit work with his kid and everything. So if you have the means to support, check out Baby Jesse's Reptiles Baby Jesse's Reptile World. But we're back today with some brand new guests, and there's three of them this time, right? We usually only have one guest, so I want to welcome to the podcast for the very first time, the guys from You Hate to See It.
Hello.
Howdy.
We are very excited, even though it doesn't sound like it.
Jeff and I were up until like 2 a.m. So.
That's
your
head.
So we got Nick, Jeff, and Adam.
Yes.
Yep. Right.
All right. You Hate to See It. That's an interesting title right there. Now, where did that come from?
Which let's make Nick.
I think I did come up with it.
Nope.
No. Yeah, I think I did. No. I'm pretty sure I did.
No.
Pretty sure I did. Yeah,
I think Nick's no longer talking about it.
No. I'm almost certain I did.
Definitely Jeff that came up with it.
Anyway, no. Hey, it's me.
All
it's
right.
My turn. So basically, we were three best friends from college. We met there. Jeff had a house with his roommates. Adam and I essentially slept on the couch for 2 years. And when we graduated, Jeff and I graduated, and then we came back for Adam's graduation several times. I
didn't graduate several times. They just came back several times. He
failed all of his classes. He changed degrees.
That would be wild if that was true.
Yeah. So there's that, and then we would get trashed, and finally, basically, the three of us would shoot shit, and eventually, everyone would end up on the floor laughing. Adam would run around in his underwear, screeching, and someone just goes, "Hey, you guys should make a podcast." And then now we're here.
And the name came from we were trying to come up with a name and went through many iterations. Most of them were very bad.
Yeah, they were really bad.
Well, I mean, they funny names, but you have to have the right kind of sense of humor for them to be funny, or else they're cancel culture stuff.
Yeah. What was yours, Adam?
No, we don't need to talk.
We don't need to talk about that.
But Jeff used to say you hate to see it whenever something would happen, like big oof or sad day kind of stuff. Like you hate to see it was just one of his phrases.
Sad day would have been a really bad podcast name.
That would have been interesting there. Where are you guys from?
Chicago.
Yeah,
Chicago
area. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so I mean, I like the the whole the 3-man show type of thing. I think people I don't know, when it comes to podcasts, I think people just like to be kind of like a fly on the wall, They like to hear the banter back and forth between people. I know, like on my podcast, for example, every 10th episode I have what we call a shit show. It's just me and three friends just talking about any stupid topic that comes up, and people really seem to like those for some reason. I could have like an episode where it's like either really, really deep or really, or something really cool, or like a little, Z-list celebrity or something. And people will be like, when are you going to have your stupid friends back on? And those seem to be the ones that have the most, the most listens, and people just gravitate toward those. Yeah. You guys kind of feel the same or no?
Yeah, I mean, that's basically what our main podcast was. I mean, we're doing more interviews now, but it's still, it's us three. It originally started out us three getting drunk and just talking about whatever stupid topic came together, just came up. And it was a lot of banter. It's a lot of us yelling at each other. We had a whole episode where we debated cheese.
Yeah,
that was a thing that happened.
Pizza.
Remember the whole episode where I screamed about cheese balls? That
was fun. Yeah, no, we would be talking about parties, like the most recent party we had. And then there would be like originally the concept was like we talk about things we hated. But if you do that too much, eventually things just start getting angry and start going down the gutter. So we had to stop that.
Yeah, and we basically introduced interviews when we realized we told the same college stories like 3 or 4 times on the podcast, and we're like, we gotta do something else now. We've run out of stories. We're adults and don't do stupid things anymore. Like,
yeah, well, you know, those stories are always fun, I'm sure. Now you guys mentioned you started doing like interviews and stuff like that, right? I came across a snippet of an interview, right? Let me ask before I ask you guys, right? How are your interview skills? You guys feel like you're comfortable doing it, or not as comfortable, or
it varies.
It really does vary. We're slowly learning, because beforehand it was much easier when we first started, because we were just interviewing other podcasters, and usually we had been talking ahead of time to figure out, like, we knew what topics we were going to be talking about roughly when we went into it, and then we would just go off on tangents with them, and whatever happened. As we've started to do like more celebrities, that's been tougher, of having to sit down and do research, and you don't know what kind of chemistry.
Yeah, you also don't want to just ask the same questions that they probably get asked on every other podcast they guest on, because people who are following, like listening to every episode of that celebrity, of like the podcast they go on, eventually they're just going to hear the same questions and answers over and over, and that just kind of gets old.
Now I ask, and then I'm no Joe Rogan. I'm not the best of anything either. But there was one snippet of an interview that I came across that you guys did, that you posted, where you seem like you guys are really uncomfortable.
Which guest?
With Larry Hankin.
Okay, yeah. So that Larry Hankin one was that was literally the first one. 3 minutes of the very first celebrity interview we ever did. So that was like because those clips we were literally, and it only ended up being just for Larry Hankin. They were supposed to be like the start of the episode, and found out very quickly we're not great at starting episodes. That's the struggle, is the introducing the guest and doing all of the, like, just the PR bullshit that you have to do at the start. Like, that's where we struggle. It's the then having a conversation that we get into it. But yeah, originally when we were just did the Larry Hankin, we were like, oh, we'll post the very start of every episode as a clip on social media, and to get people to watch, or to get people to listen. And after we did Larry Hankins, we were like, yeah, no, we're just going to find something somewhere in the middle.
I actually was told about that ahead of time. I'm like, oh, I got to check that out, because, you know, everybody's interviewing Larry at this point. Like, he's going around, he's doing the rounds, he's putting in the work. I don't know what he's putting in the work for, but he's already had a great career.
Book, right?
Yeah, he's writing his books coming out like next year.
Like him, and you know, you guys interviewed Bruce Vilanch as well, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
that was a fun one.
Yeah, they're doing the rounds. You know, they're going on all the podcasts and everything. And you know, a lot of the same people that are in this circle, you know, they're like they're interviewing the same people, right? And somebody gave me the heads up, like, oh, you got to watch that, like, or you got to listen to that clip, because he, you know, Larry's kind of sitting there like, well, I'm Larry. You know, like,
yeah, it's not great. Maybe at some point I'll go back and make a new clip. Maybe.
No, I think that I thought that was hilarious. Like, I don't mean like that in a bad way, you know. I thought it was funny. I thought it was a good way to kind of get, you know, acquainted with who you all are. You know, I'm like,
I think it really proves that point of, like, we are just 3 very normal, average human beings, and now we're just interviewing celebrities, and it's like, oh, we're still kind of starstruck because this is a first for us.
Yeah, so because like when you interview like podcasters, people who aren't famous, and you go and basically you go, hi, where you hate to see it, this is us. Here we have so-and-so. Hey, so-and-so, talk about yourself for a hot minute, like let everyone know who you are. And had to realize that when it comes to celebrities, we have to tell the audience who the celebrity is, not they talk about themselves. And that was the quick learning curve that we had to deal with. And but yeah, so Larry was the unfortunate soul who had to tell us who he was.
Yeah, I think but the way I was told was kind of inaccurate. That they told me like, hey, they didn't even know who the guy was. I'm like, I don't think that's accurate. Like, I don't think they would interview somebody and be like, I don't know who you are.
No, we knew. We were just, every time you do a podcast, we like to talk about ourselves. So that's so you let the person talk about themselves.
If you do go in and listen to that episode, though, I think you've noticed that we do kind of get the bearings pretty quick. So
yeah, it's kind of after the first question, like the first real question, like then things start flowing. It just get to that first question is always a pain for us.
Also, there's the aspect of like with other podcasters, like Adam said, usually you're talking to each other like weeks before for like a while. And then you can also hop into Zoom and like talk to them for a while before you even hit the record button, kind of build a chemistry. With like celebrities, they're usually on a tighter schedule. And like when they get in, it's like, okay, this is how we're going to start it. And then we'll just go into like talking to you. And then that's just where it is. It's like you don't get to build a chemistry with the other person as much.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I'll check it out. I definitely wanted to check out a little bit more of that one just to see if, it seemed like toward the end of it, he's like, okay, he's cool now. I think he just wanted to bust balls a little, it seemed like.
Yeah.
That does seem like a very Larry thing to do.
Doesn't help that I was essentially not there for the entire recording.
Yeah, Nick. So with Larry, it was really funny, but it also helped our podcast, like helped Larry with us a little bit, was because Larry was our first celebrity. I hadn't like ahead of time kind of told him like a rundown of like, hey, like you can swear, you can do like, we're not like a like we don't advertise to families. Like we are like that, like we advertise to more of that edgier, like 16 to 30-year-olds, like that age group. And he's but Larry was the poor soul that, again, because we didn't know what we were doing really, we put him into the deep end, and we were talking, and it was kind of clear that he was like kind of monitoring himself a little bit as we were going. And then randomly Nick's internet cut out, so he like his call dropped, and we were all like, huh. And during that I was like, okay, like, well, Larry, while we wait for Nick to get back, just to let you know, you can swear, like you can say whatever you want. We edit, so if there's something that you say we don't want on the show, we'll cut it. Like it's fine. And he went, oh, okay. Well, fuck you, Nick, for leaving. And after that, it was so much more fun. And so I was like, okay, every time we have a guest on, I need to let them know that they don't need to filter. They can just go.
We should probably make it a thing, right? Like every episode, a "fuck you, Nick" moment.
That is the standard.
That is been a thing since we started.
Yeah, that was part of the start of the podcast. Was Nick was the punching bag. We kind of have gone away from that because at some point it stopped being funny and started to be just mean. But we sway back and forth.
Yeah, and I wonder the dynamic between you three, because if you listen. I don't know. I don't really listen to too many podcasts. I like. I don't know. You guys are probably pro wrestling fans too, right?
No.
Oh man,
No.
I totally misjudged you. The weed smoking comic book stuff. I figured you might have been.
No. It's nicotine and hate.
Oh, okay. Never mind then. But like this is a podcast I listen to. Is Keeping It 100 with former wrestlers Conan, Disco Inferno, and then they got like this. Producer guy that they always just kind of use as a punching bag. So I wondered if there was like a dynamic between the three of you where one of you is a punching bag.
Oh yeah. It's Nick.
Yeah,
it's not really a dynamic anymore. It's just my existence.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's so bad now that Nick just bullies himself.
Yes.
Yeah,
We'll
like,
usually get to
It's
it.
fun when I beat them to the jokes.
Yeah, that's always a rough time for us because then we're like, well, what the fuck do we say now? Like,
Right.
well, and because like there's only, I mean, we've made fun of Nick for so long, and there's really only so many things you can make fun of a person over and over again about. Like, so it's now like trying to come up with new and interesting things to say, but then at the same time, the good oldies, Nick knows the jokes are coming, so he says it like, for example, we just recorded an episode yesterday, and so Nick doesn't have a father because he left. And I don't even remember what was said, but Nick made some. Really
Someone was asking me about like
joke.
what kind of like what milk I drink or something. It was something
yeah.
like that.
And it made some guy about his dad's. He doesn't know because his dad was still out trying to get it for the past 10 years or whatever. It was funny, and Jeff was very upset that Nick beat him to the punch.
I was pretty fucking pissed off.
Stole his thunder there, man. Come on.
I have one role on this, and it's just a bully, and Nick's taking it from me because he's doing self-hatred.
Yeah.
Well, with with your podcast, what I mean, you guys plan to do this for a bit? Is it more of like a hobby type of thing? I mean, for me, what I always tell people is I do it because it's fun. Like I honestly don't, take it super seriously. I mean, I'll put in the work and make it sound decent and do a little bit of artwork on every little episode and whatnot, but I'm not trying to make money off of it. It's just such a saturated field, right? But what about you guys? Like what's your goal maybe with the podcast, if any, and what are you trying to do with it?
I think
fun.
Yeah, I think it originally started out like it was a hobby and it was like just kind of fun, but now we've kind of pivoted into like, let's see if we can make something out of it, but we still kind of just hold it as like it's just a hobby.
If we can
thing.
get $150 a month from this, that's $50 in our pockets that we didn't have at the beginning. So that's kind of how I look at it. And then I hate planning it. Like when I think about it, it's awful. But like I
when you get into it, it's fun.
I love actually doing it, which is what I keep reminding myself when I'm like, man, I really don't want to fucking record.
Well, the nice thing for Nick is Jeff and I do most of the behind the scenes work on this. So Nick just has to show up half the time, and that's a struggle every once in a while.
I guess started a new job a couple months ago, and it's just been kicking my ass. So.
And he's now in a relationship.
Yeah.
So it's the rest
Long
of us
distance,
have figured out our shit, but he's still in that figuring out how his life is going to work out phase. And so Jeff and I have both Jeff and I live with our significant others, and so it's easier for us to just
also I think like
editing.
I think we're at the point where like we just want to get money to pay for the things we need for the podcast, so to be able to pay for Zoom every month and then pay for like the website we use to upload on and everything. And then after that, like really it's just kind of we're having fun. Like it's fun meeting like celebrities and stuff. Like something I never thought I would just be able to do sitting at my computer every day.
Yeah, well, the other two have law enforcement degrees, so it's like with your law enforcement degree, did you ever think you'd be interviewing Larry Hankin?
No, I didn't know who Larry Hankin was before interview.
No one knows who he is, but they all know like who he is by his look.
Yeah,
that's it.
Oh,
whether you know it or not, you've watched something with him in it. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
But like to see some of these people and be like, oh yeah, like Bruce Valanche wrote Star Wars Holiday Special, and I've seen that before. Like that's weird that I can talk about that to someone. But yeah.
Well, I mean, I think a huge thing, a little spoiler for coming up, we're going to be interviewing Tommy Chong soon.
Nice.
And like, I fucking love that 70s show. Like,
that's it. Yeah, that is.
We're in that weird generation that we know Tommy Chong from that 70s show, not from Cheech and Chong.
Yeah.
Whenever they say, like, up until like a couple days ago, whenever they said Tommy Chong, I'm like, who? And then finally I connected it with that 70s show.
A Stone guy on that 70s.
Nick, that is not the question you want to ask on the podcast, Nick. Who are you?
Who are you?
Yeah. Well, I mean,
that thing we did with Larry Hankin.
Yeah. Well, also like some of the fun things, like meeting the cool, like the celebrities that are like in shows that you like you said, the people whose faces you recognize, but also just like the other people that you wouldn't. Like Adam and I interviewed a short film director, actor.
Yeah, John. We interviewed a guy who writes and acts in short films,
and that was probably one of my favorite interviews that I've been a part of. Just because I know nothing about it, and it was just interesting to learn about.
And none of his content was online for us to watch.
Yeah.
So it got into the process of writing,
so
like the behind the scenes of everything, as opposed to what was on screen.
Yeah, I get a lot of those too, where it's like, well, I'm an actor. Like, well, where's your shit? Like, where's it? Like, where can I watch it? It's like, because I like to have an idea of what I'm talking about too. But I just kind of, at this point, I just figure, like, if I'm gonna interview someone who says they're an actor and I've never heard of them, I'm gonna have to make some questions up that are very, how do I put it? That are very probing, right? That you can really kind of dig in and it'll throw you into a one tangent or another, because you do have to dig with a lot of these people. Nobody knows who they are. You don't know who they are, but somewhere in there's a story. Everybody has a story, and I think that's the most important thing, is that there's a story to tell, and whether or not anybody gave a damn before, you have to make them give a damn while they're listening. Otherwise, it's just a kind of a dud of an episode.
Yeah. So we did, with Larry Hankin, we came in with a lot because we've seen most of his stuff. With Bruce Valanche, we came in with a decent amount because, I mean, we literally interviewed him the week Will Smith slapped the shit out of Chris Rock, and he worked on the Oscars and stuff. So that was stuff that we could talk about. And then after that, we started getting like people that we were like, all right, like, I think I know one thing that they've done and like no idea about the rest of it. So those are the ones that we really sit there and I'm like with my notepad out and be like, everything they say, be like, okay, I can circle back to this and blah, blah, and as we go, which is the nice thing about recording on Zoom, is they don't see the fact that I'm scribbling notes constantly.
Well, also the nice thing is like, if it is someone who's like been in a decent amount of stuff, but none of us have seen, there's three of us, we can all just go watch something different and then come back and we all have something.
We can go watch a couple trailers of their movies on YouTube.
Yeah,
like that, yeah.
So we interviewed Mark Christopher Lawrence, and even though he's been in like 200 projects, I've only seen like 3 of his projects, and I've only seen one. Yeah, his like very small bit roles where he like says one line and that's it. And I knew him
from Hunt for Red October.
I knew him from Terminator 2, and I didn't know that I knew him from that until I saw that on his IMDb and I looked him up. But yeah, so like thing for him, then like while we were recording and I was going through just the general crap that you go through of like this role and that role, he made some comments about theater, which in my research of him, just doing like the Wikipedia, the IMDb, like just like front page of Google, like I was like, oh, I didn't know he was doing all this theater work, and that's where he spends most of his time actually. And so I was like, while he's talking about stuff, I'm like pulling out the theater questions and stuff like that, and it ended up being like a really cool interview about the theater process and acting on theater. That was fun.
Yeah. I mean, that's always interesting to find something different about people out there. I think like you mentioned having to find something that maybe you've seen them do. I think I'm gonna try to get Larry Hankin on as well soon. I just haven't had him on. Again, he's been doing the rounds. I'm like, give him a break. I'm like, you don't need to be rushing on anything else, But I think if you were to ask me before, like, one thing I remember him from, it's going to be weird, but it's Home Improvement.
You was in Home Improvement?
Probably for like an episode. I don't know.
I think he was the Halloween guy, or the Halloween guy, something like that.
I think I've seen like 4 episodes of Home Improvement.
Last time I watched Home Improvement was
when your dad was around.
No, fuck off. That was a good one though. Well done. God, it was some holiday. It was like Memorial Day, or like 4th of July or something. I just got high and watched Home Improvement for like 4 hours.
See, I used to watch that every day, like back when I was a kid, all those shows that were like on constant what do you call it? Replay, yeah, all the time, right? Every day after school, right? That would be one of the shows. I just remember him as the magic guy. Out of all the things he's been on, if I told him like, "Hey, you're the magic guy from Home Improvement," I wonder how he'd react to that. I'm thinking about it.
Also, bring up his art. That's the thing we found out about him is that he does.
Yeah,
art,
he does a lot of art. Well,
and that's the thing he does now. So
with Larry, we had a lot of fun because I was asking him questions about roles that he had completely forgotten that he did, and he was like, okay, like he was in Star Trek: The Next Generation in one episode where they covered his face in like squares, like he looked like a soccer ball, and his head floated around the screen, and that's it. And he like had completely forgotten that he did that until we asked him about it, and he's like, "Oh yeah." And I think he told like a 45-minute story about his very first film role.
Yeah, which was pretty cool.
Yeah.
The other thing I'd probably remember him for is Billy Madison.
Yeah.
Yep.
He
hates Adam Sandler.
He hates Adam Sandler. Yep.
Oh. Didn't expect that one.
Yeah.
He
yeah.
absolutely.
We didn't either.
I knew it going in that he hated him, but because it's like Steve told me. But yeah, Larry despises Adam Sandler, and we asked him a bit about it, and he doesn't really. I think he's talked about it enough that he doesn't really talk about his hatred for Adam Sandler anymore.
I'm gonna go in there and be like, what a dick, huh? That Sandler is. I'm like, smug son of a bitch.
Yeah. That's the right attitude.
Until Adam Sandler comes on your show, and then
and then
like,
case.
and you're like, Adam, you're my favorite.
I gotta find somebody who can do a really good impression of him, right?
Yeah.
There you go.
Why are you talking about Sandler like that? But so as far as your podcast goes, you guys are having fun with it and everything, man. I see you guys are pretty invested in it. You guys got those nice Rode microphones there.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a fun time to do during the pandemic.
Oh my god, it took forever to get them.
Oh yeah. We started off with a blue snowball in the middle of a table. And then when we went into lockdown, we were like, well, what do we do now?
We're using our gaming headsets.
Yeah, so we just used these mics in our headsets on Discord, and it sounded awful. So it was like, okay, like we should probably each get a microphone. And I got in touch with some company that was willing to give us a deal.
Sponsor us if you want a name.
Yeah. And he was able to give us a deal, and was because we were buying everything, because we even bought enough stuff we could now record in person with our nice setup. We haven't done that yet, but we have the equipment to do it. But yeah, like, so yeah.
Yeah, no, because I noticed those. I'm like, damn, those are some high-end microphones there. Like, do you guys run them through what do you run them through? Like, do you have a little mixer, or do you do the?
Well, so Jeff and I have good quality mixers, and then Nick has one for guitars, and it's been a struggle.
I blame Jeff for introducing me to the guy who told me to get them in the first place.
Hey, it's not my fault. I never told you to go to him for fucking audio software.
Yeah, so basically what we had originally, we ordered cables that went that were like the connector that you XLR, yeah. So they had them going from this to a USB. So we could just plug it right into our computers. And we ordered, and everything came in like 3 shipments. And at the end of it, we still didn't have those cables. And so I emailed the guy, and he was like, yeah, he's like, I don't know when they're going to be back in stock. Like, it could be like 8 months. Like, he's like, I really don't know. And I was like, okay, like, what other options do you have for us? And while this is all going on, Nick got impatient and got his own thing. And then this guy's like, here's what I would recommend, and showed me, like, gave me the link to him. And I was like, okay, well, Nick's already got something, so we'll take 2 of those. And then Yeah, and here we are with our
I needed
equipment versus some Joe Schmo who Twitch streams telling Nick what to use.
I needed Twitch stream stuff, so I needed it at the time. So it's not like I got impatient. I needed it. So
very impatient, Nick.
I needed it.
Yeah, it was a heavy investment at the beginning for him. We did it within like the first 4 months of us.
Yeah,
starting our podcast.
We started January of 2020, and 3 months later, shit hit the fan. Yeah, so
everybody started a podcast as soon as the pandemic hit, right?
We started ours beforehand.
Yeah, we're better because we started first, and then the pandemic hit, and everyone stole our
completely
idea.
Unrelated.
Yeah,
it was nice during the pandemic though, because it did give us a reason to somehow actually get to like see each other instead of like all quarantining and like texting every once in a while. It gave us once a week to get hammered and still do what we normally did, but over Zoom.
Yeah, no, that's actually, I think, probably one of the reasons why so many people started. I mean, I guess when I started, I got so bored and shit. Like, I was working, it was, but it was at home. I was working at home, it was like, I'm done with my work within like 30 minutes for the whole damn day, Like, it's because they did not know how to, how to really kind of give us any work at that point. They're just like, well, we can't fire everybody. We can't let everybody off. Right. Until they did. Like until they did, Well,
yeah, that's what happens when the 6-month pandemic turns into 2.5 years.
Yeah.
Well, no, if you remember, it was only supposed to be 2 weeks.
Yeah. 14 days to flatten the curve. That was fun.
Yeah.
14 days turned into 600 some.
Yeah.
I mean, we want to think we're done with it at this point, but
my sister actually just got tested positive for COVID like 2 days ago. It was like, oh, it's still a thing we're doing. Okay.
Yeah.
I don't think Adam makes fun of me. I haven't worn a mask in like probably close to a year at this point. Just if I wasn't going into like my chiropractor where they mandated it because it was technically a doctor's office. But yeah, Adam likes to give me shit for that.
Yeah, I'm fucking terrible because I just didn't go anywhere. Like,
my thing was my job that I got because I couldn't work. I have a film degree and I couldn't work. So Nick helped me get a security job, and my entire job was telling people to put masks on. So then when I'd go someplace, I'd put my mask on because I know how much it sucks being that person on the other side, yelling at people to put masks on and having my life threatened because of it. And Nick wouldn't put a mask on. So I always gave Nick shit because I'm like, literally, I'm the person who has to tell you to put your mask on at my job. Like, just put it on because you're saving all of us a lot of the pain and suffering.
The funniest time that happened was I walked 5 feet from our restaurant table to the door. Like, I pulled it out, looked at the door, and I just walked out.
Yeah, that was funny.
Yeah.
Cool, man. Well, what do you guys want, to, and it's kind of weird because I'm sure you're not used to being the interviewees, right?
Yeah, it's a little different.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I know when I'm asked to be like the one being interviewed, I'm like, I don't really want to do that. I'm like, that's not my thing, like that's not fun for me. I like being the one asking the questions, right?
Mm-hmm.
But every now and then I'll do it, just because it's either a favor to the person who came on to my show, or somebody it's a favor to somebody.
Yeah.
But how do you guys feel being the ones who are not usually the interviewees, and now you're the interviewees this time around?
So usually the past podcasts I've like, sometimes we'll guess where like only one of us goes, or we'll do ones like this where all three of us will show up, or maybe there's just two. Most of the ones that I like have gone on by myself, I've like enjoyed being interviewed, because usually I go in, it's like a specific type of a podcast. Like I've guessed it a couple times on like a video game podcast. So you go in with like a specific thing you're going to be talking about anyways. So like, what kind of prepared for it, and it just becomes a conversation about the game.
Yeah.
And then a lot of it, like most of the time when we all go on, it's like, how did you start the podcast? How do you know each other? It's just kind of like, we just tell the same thing over and over. Yeah. So we've gotten used to it. It's like, which is fine. Like if like, it is interesting, like usually finding out how people started podcasts and how they meet. But yeah, it's literally just us usually telling our drunken college stories if we can even remember what happened.
It's always fun because you never know where it's gonna go. I don't know if you know the Rico podcast. I don't know if you've talked to those guys. They're also through
Steve.
Steve, yeah, thank you. I don't know
the guy that we
I
pay.
could,
Yes,
I could
Steve.
not remember the name for some reason. Like because normally for me is I'm either talking about comics or like I said, following Adam's drunk ass around college. Trying to find him.
I gotta give Steve a lot of props though, man. That guy hustles.
Yeah, he does.
Yeah.
That guy hustles his ass off, man. I've never met somebody who actually like, you know, call you back and, you know, get you on the phone immediately with like the other party. I'm like, damn, this dude he's nonstop.
That guy called me at 6:30 in the morning once.
Yeah, he's already up, like, you know, trying to book people on podcasts.
6:30 in the morning for me is like 9 for him, but still, I'm like, God. Like,
but that guy hustles, man. But
yeah,
you know,
especially when you realize how many like podcasts he deals with. Because like now that like we're scheduling people, like we're scheduling to guest on other podcasts and have people on ours, it's like he does this for how many fucking people, and then also for like the celebrities getting them onto those podcasts. Like fuck that. That is, it's hard for us to make our damn schedule with the people he gives us. Like
I don't like people that much.
Yeah, it's the same.
Yeah, I think you know, I think it's cool because he comes from a different era, right? So you get a lot of like those old Hollywood people.
Yeah.
Right. And I'm like, that's something I'm not familiar with. So I mean, it's really cool when you see people that are like you could choose from that are like from, you know, Love Boat or, you know, from Greece or, you know, Jaws, you know, things you know of yester decade, you know.
Exactly. Yeah.
And people might have forgotten about it, but I mean, there's still some really cool content on there, some cool stories out there, you know.
Yeah.
So I mean, I really appreciate that because I think, you know, I was told that there's some people who really want to be picky and they're like, oh, well, my audience won't know who that is. Like, so I don't want to interview them. It's like, are you fucking kidding me? Like, you get an opportunity to, you know, talk to somebody who probably has, you know, decades worth of you know, of stories to tell. And you're going to pass it up because, oh, well, my audience doesn't know who that is. It's like, that's your job. You know, like you get them interested. I don't care what you're talking about. You know, you can get me some fucking bum off the street that I've never met, right? And I'm gonna make them interesting to you. Like that's just what we're supposed to do, you know?
It's almost like an honor because like you're being the medium, getting one generation of like entertainment and introducing it to the new one. Like you're carrying on a legacy.
Well, and also it's like it's connecting you to other people, like I'm not saying this is happening, but like, you know, I have Larry Hankin on and he's on Friends, so maybe sometime in the future, you know, when I can reach out to like Jennifer Aniston, which won't ever happen, but like maybe it helps me get in somewhere and where I wouldn't normally be able to just get like
Well, it's also the fact of like it's also nice when like you get those like older people from like older movies and stuff because they also have seen how like it's changed over time. Like they've been a part of it for, like you said, like decades. It's like, how has it changed over the decades? Like what was different when you started compared to like if you were to go get a role now, how would it be different for you compared to like when you started off? So that was the thing with like Mark Scheffler. Like that's kind of like his break gave him his into writing, like writing the shows and movies and stuff that he did. And it's interesting because you go back and it's like if Last House, he's known for Last House on the Left. It's like if that wouldn't have done that, like how would have his career gone? Like where does he think he would have been now if it wasn't for that break? Yeah. Which is the thing I always find interesting is like how things kind of change over time. That's what I'm always interested in.
For sure. Now, anything else you guys want to throw out there about your podcast or anything interesting you want to point out or, you know, anything interesting coming up or anything like that?
We actually have a true crime podcast attached to the You Hate to See It. So We do a bi-weekly in between the weeks that our normal stuff, like interviews, come out. The three of us get hammered and talk about a true crime case.
Seems to be a trend here, I'm noticing. Huh?
Yeah, anything as an excuse to let us be drunk and not like pointed out as alcoholics works great for us. But it's a little bit different because Nick and I, like Adam pointed out, we have degrees in law enforcement and then we have minors in forensic psychology, so we can kind of go into stuff a little bit differently. Do we always? Not always, but
it's fun either yelling about really bad psychology or really bad legal decisions. It's always a fun time. And then Adam usually eats dinner.
Yeah.
I eat dinner a lot. I also I try and be as funny as possible, and a lot of my jokes just end up getting cut from the episode.
You do say a lot of things that should not be said in a true crime area.
And then I also feel like I'm like the audience because like I'm learning about some of this stuff, and something will happen and the question will come up of like, is this normal just in general, like unrelated to the topic that we're talking about? Like, here's another question that maybe someone else is thinking about, and that's where I come into play.
Where do y'all get your true crime stories from? Is it like from your something you learned in like a class or anything or something like that, or where do you get that from?
So we it's sometimes like just scrolling through social media, you'll see like a story that you're like, oh, I've never really heard of that. And then we have like a list in our Discord of like topics we want to cover. Sometimes it's like, oh, it's just a big serial killer. Like that's always interesting. Sometimes Adam finds his usually off of like TikTok and stuff.
I'm a sucker for 18th century German serial killers. So
yeah, it really like I just like reading true crime. So sometimes it's just like reading a true crime book, and I'm like, this would be a great topic. Or like Netflix just came out with that Our Father documentary, which was something I never knew about until we watched it and we recorded it yesterday because I was just like, this is such an interestingly like odd thing that happened. We try to do lesser known stuff just to kind of get it brought up and be like, this happens more often than you would fucking think. Like, it's not all serial killers. There are some people who just like mentally snap and do some wild shit that like they had basically like one bad day changed their life forever type of a thing. But yeah, I mean, we try to just mix it up and go through a lot of different stuff. We've done conspiracy type stuff. We've done like child neglect stuff where there's like not even a murder. It's just like horrible parenting that like should have been stopped a long time prior. We've done Larry Nassar, who was the U.S. Olympic gymnast, like personal trainer. And yeah, we just try to cover a wide array of stuff.
All right. Well, yeah, that sounds interesting too, right there, man. You running multiple podcasts, right?
Yeah, we try, but the true crime's just my baby. I just like true crime, then it's fun.
Cool. All right. Well, where can people reach you on social media?
We are available on all forms of social media and wherever you listen to podcasts. Search You Hate to See It, and our @ handle is at YOUH82CIT.
Good. All right. Anything else out there for the podcast world before we close it up?
Listen to our stuff.
Yeah.
Please,
share it.
I am
share
begging
it
you.
too. Listen to it and then
send
share it.
send us your hate mail.
Oh yeah, we'll you if you want to hate tweet at us, we'll respond.
Send us Fabian's hate mail.
Yeah, I would love some hate mail. I've been waiting for some, man, just so I can.
We got one. We commented on it, and they just left us alone. It was kind of depressing.
Yeah,
I'm really waiting for somebody to just send me hate mail. I'm like, let me see what that's like. I mean, that's you made it, right?
I got
the hate mail we got wasn't even like that big of like a hater. Like
they told us that we weren't overly entertaining, and we ran with that for about 6 months.
What a great description, though, right?
Yeah.
It's like, you're not overly entertaining. It's like, yeah, but we're like, apparently we're entertaining enough.
We're kind of entertaining, but not overly. Like,
which is like what you're aiming for. You don't want to be overwhelmed. Okay, like it can be too much.
It's an adequate amount of entertainment.
Exactly. Yeah.
So maybe it was a compliment. We took it wrong.
Yeah. I mean, it could have been a backhanded compliment, but it was still a compliment.
Yeah.
It is what it is. All right, then. Well, I appreciate having you guys on. Definitely hope people check you out, and I'm going to check out the rest of that interview with Larry Hankin. I was just laughing at him in the beginning there, but busting
It
balls
gets
a little
better.
bit.
I swear. I think it's better in the edit too than what it is in the. But yeah.
Yeah,
All
thanks
right.
for having us, though.
Thanks.
This
For
was
sure.
fun.
Definitely. All right, for everybody listening at home, I appreciate it. Thank you. Fuck you and good night.
Oh.
Subscribe to the Ignorance is Strength podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Google Podcasts. Like, follow, and share on Facebook and Instagram at Ignorance is Strength Podcast and on Twitter at The Ignorance Pod.